So we're in chapter 15 of your biology book, and we're on section 5, exploring Earth's biomes. Biomes are going to be those sections of Earth that have different climates, and we'll go into tundras, forests, grasslands, deserts, and then aquatic biomes. So let's begin here. Don't you love these pictures? Biomes, climax community. So what is a biome? A biome is a large geographic region of the world with characteristic climax vegetation and distinctive animal populations. So what does that mean? When they say climax vegetation, that means where everything has grown and it's not going to grow into anything more. It's that climax vegetation, and where the animals, it's that climax community on Earth. So a climax community is used to refer to the combination of regions' climax vegetation and animal populations. And each biome has its own unique climax community. So biomes use mainly plant life to classify biomes because plants are stationary. So they're just trying to classify different sections of the Earth, as you see. And as you see here, you'll see the Arctic region, and you'll see more of the desert down into the prairies and onto the aquatic and savannas. These are all biomes. Biome. Each biome is unique because of its characteristic climate and geography. Different biomes have different climates because they are located at different altitudes and different latitudes on the Earth. A latitude would be if you're near the equator, you probably have a more jungle climate. And then if you're higher altitude up in the mountains, you would probably have a colder mountain altitude or alpine altitude climate, more of an Arctic or a tundra. Climate is also affected by global wind circulation patterns, which produce differences in humidity, temperature, and precipitation. So here we have different biomes here, as you can go through these different climates as you go through the Earth. It's amazing. All the different places, if you look, the differences between the desert areas and the jungle areas. These are different biomes. Mission biomes: tundra, shrubland, rainforest, grassland, desert, deciduous forest, coniferous forest. So here we have all, and you'll see on the map of the world all of these different biomes and all the different continents. Each continent has a variety of biomes. So let's go over some of them. Tundra. The Arctic tundra extends across the northernmost parts of North America, Europe, and Asia, towards the North Pole, right? They have long, harsh winters with freezing temperatures and snow and ice and high winds. And the winter days are short, and the summers are cool, short, and dry. Summer days are long because the North Pole leans towards the sun during this season. So a lot of times the summer days, the length of the days are long, but the summers are short. Tundra life. You can see the colorful mosses and the lichens and grasses and the dwarf shrubs in this picture in the summer. How beautiful. Tundra life. There are no trees. There's trees in this picture, but on the uppermost tundras, there's no trees growing in some areas because the season is too short and the permafrost happens. The permafrost is a frozen layer of soil 2 to 3 feet and does not allow the roots to grow and water to penetrate in the soil. So if you look at these tundras here with the snow and such, the permafrost, so the trees don't grow. Here we have a few trees, but as you go farther up on the tundra layers, there's not many trees as you go up, especially when you're going from the altitude of a mountain, but also if you're going near the North Pole. Reindeer, musk oxen, lemmings, Arctic hares, and caribou feed on vegetation. Predators are wolves and Arctic foxes are some of the predators there. There's also, when you say predators, there's also bears. And many insects are during the summer. So you wouldn't think, you think it'd be too cold. It's too cold right here for insects, of course. But during the summer, they have a lot of flies and mosquitoes. Alpine tundra means mountain. Alpine means in the mountains. You'll see this mountain background. See how beautiful this tundra here is here. They exist far away from the North Pole. A lot of times these mountains are not near the North Pole. So the high mountain altitudes are called alpine. So if you say alpine villages, it means mountain village. Vegetation is similar to the Arctic tundra, although the soil has better drainage and packs permafrost too. So here, but how beautiful these flowers growing in this alpine tundra. The northern coniferous forest. When you say coniferous, it means cones. That means this forest produces cones, so they're evergreens. And you would call these northern coniferous forests taiga. Another race, taiga. So south of the tundra are the coniferous forests, and they're also called boreal forests or taiga. And they extend throughout much of Canada and northern United States and through many parts of Europe and Russia have these. So you can see these forests even where we live, you know. Climate is harsh with longer winters and heavy snowfalls in the taiga area. The northern coniferous forest lifestyle. What kind of life grows here? Forest life, I should say. Trees prosper because summer is longer and the permafrost is rare, so not too much permafrost, so they can get longer roots. And the conifers, especially white and black spruce, are dominant. Other conifers like pine and hemlock and larch and fir are also common. Natural forest fires sometimes are common in the forest of these conifers during the summer because of the dry air and the flammability of the trees. So these trees can go up fire pretty quickly. Unfortunately, these can be caused by irresponsible human activity. So forest fires, a lot of times they're caused by lightning storms though. Coniferous forest animals. So there's great flocks of migratory birds that come through the forest, and they spend the summers in the forest. And there's many animals, taiga animals are larger compared to similar animals. Oh, these are pretty small, but they're babies, but most of the animals in this area are very large. They have moose, large deer, wolverines from the weasel family. They have croc of the wood, those are the largest grouses here. And their large size is for conserving heat because it gets cold there, so they need to be big and have a lot of, like these bear here that have a lot of extra fat to get them through, and a lot of them do hibernate. Temperate rainforests. Now let's go to the rainforests. They're found along the west coast in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Some of these rainforests, but the climate is warmer and wetter. In the southern pine forest, they have pine forests in the south too, and they dominate the southeastern states along the Atlantic and Gulf Coast regions and are another variation of the biome. So the temperate rainforests vary a little bit depending on how warm the climate is there. So here we have two different types of rainforests there. Temperate deciduous forest. Deciduous trees, they lose their leaves. Just remember that. Deciduous means they lose their leaves in the winter. So temperate deciduous forests. So these are not evergreens. They're on the east coast of the United States to the border of the grasslands in the Midwestern states. And also a lot of Europe and Eastern Asia has deciduous forests. Seasons are well defined with cold winters and hot summers. So I know living in Iowa, we had cold winters and hot summers, but we had the beautiful falls like that. There's a generous amount of precipitation sufficient to support large trees and all kinds of animals. And it's dominated by a great variety of deciduous broadleaf trees. And like we said, they lose these, so a lot of different broadleaf trees, not evergreen trees, not pines and firs, but we have maples and oaks and hickories and birches and beeches and basswoods and ashes and black locust trees and poplars. They're all mixed into these deciduous forests that can be very beautiful. So, among these, you'll find some conifers such as hemlock, pine, spruce, and fir. So every once in a while in these type of forests, you will find some cone trees there, evergreen trees there. But mainly you'll see the broadleaf trees. Temperate forest life. Spring flowers are beautiful in the temperate forests, blooming on the forest floor. Look at this picture up here, isn't that beautiful? Great amounts of decaying and dead wood. Almost half of the biomass of the undisturbed forest is dead wood. So on the floor of a forest, you'll find a lot of dead wood and a lot of decaying wood. There's a lot of microorganisms because of that reason. Things like fungi and insects thrive in the decaying leaves and twigs and in the trunks. So here you have a lot of, if you have dead wood there, you're going to have a lot of insects. Herbivores. The herbivores eat plants like white-tailed deer, squirrels, mice, rabbits, and many birds and blue jays. Woodpeckers are common in this area in the forest life. The carnivores are weasels, owls, and foxes. And then you have omnivores, which eat plants and animals, like bears and opossums. So here's a great variety here in the temperate forest life. Now we're going to the grasslands, which are called prairies, the grassland biome. The prairies and plains of North America have the fertilest soils in the whole world. So you can imagine the plains. When you go through the plains, you see all of the, whether they're cornfields or wheat fields or bean fields, very fertile soil. The savannas of Africa and South America and Australia are also grasslands, and the steppes of Russia and the pampas of Argentina. So we have grasslands all over the world. Grasses are really dominant plant in grasslands, of course. You see the different grasses growing here. When the leaves and stems of grasses die each year, they add a rich organic matter which accumulates in the topsoil. So they have really good soil. The grass roots survive the winter, allowing the plants to grow back in the spring. So basically the grass will grow back. And then fire is also important in the grasslands because it promotes the recycling of nutrients by burning dead plants on the surface of the soil. So a lot of times, even in rice fields and some of these fields, they'll burn the plants to make it actually more able to plant and more filled with more nutrients than it had been before, which, you see them every once in a while. You'll see a burn, maybe a rice field or something, so that the nutrients will come back. Most plants are designed to survive fire and contain underground parts that enable them to return even after the fire. The low amount of rain and that hinders the tree growth, but the trees are found near the rivers and lakes. So you'll see a lot of trees, you'll see some shrubs in here, but when you get to a river or a lake, you'll find more trees, but otherwise it's mainly grass. Animal life on the prairies. So the American prairies were the home of millions of bison and pronghorn deer. The bisons were buffalo, were the main source of food and clothing for the Native Americans, but unfortunately, they were almost exterminated when settlers arrived and traded for their hides. So at that time, the buffalo almost went extinct. The pronghorn here were the fastest animal in the West. They could run 61 miles per hour, and it was almost exterminated too. Because of careful management today, though, they're not in danger of extinction. but they were hunted so much. Even the buffalo were hunted mainly for their, for their hides, and left on the prairies. It was pretty sad. Prairie dog is a rodent that barks like a dog, and they live together in elaborate communities, like called towns, these prairie towns, and they consist of a lot of underground tunnels and chambers. And those underground chambers and tunnels extend for miles underground, those prairie dogs. On the prairies, there's also wolves and coyotes, eagles and hawks. Those are common predators of the prairies. But these three are now they're symbols of life on the prairies. Savannas. Savannas, when I think of savanna, I always think of the Serengeti in Africa. So they're a special form of grassland found in tropical areas. So, they contain some of the fastest and the fiercest predators in the world, like lions and leopards and wild dogs and cheetahs. The largest savanna ever is found in Africa in the Serengeti. So here's some pictures of the Africa savanna. And grasses grow rapidly, and trees are widely distributed. So you see trees, but not so much, mainly grasslands. And it's a home for zebras, wildebeests, giraffes, Cape buffaloes, antelopes, and many others. So here you see some of the predators here as we go with the leopards and the wild dogs there, hyenas. Deserts. So let's talk about the deserts now. Desert biomes are in the west and southwest United States. You will see a lot of desert area. And there's different deserts. Deserts are areas where more water is lost through evaporation than is gained from rain. So they're very dry. And these are the hottest and the driest biomes of the whole world. The world's largest desert is the Sahara Desert, and it's in Africa, North Africa. It is 3.32 million square miles. That's a large desert. Like this picture up here is a picture of the Sahara. And see, here's the desert when the desert blooms. Some pretty beautiful pictures of the desert. Desert life. So God designed perennial desert plants with the ability to minimize their loss of water to survive. The cactus does not have noticeable leaves, but rather green stems designed to store water and carry out photosynthesis. So here you have some cactus. The rain does fall occasionally in the desert, sometimes a lot of rain at one time, and it provides for some annual plants to grow there. And these plants that grow in the desert, they germinate very quick, and they usually have a short lifespan, and they adorn the desert with spectacular displays of colorful flowers. Look at this picture of the desert. So they suddenly grow really fast, bloom really fast, and they go away. So you have to see them right when they come out, at the time when they have enough water to grow. Desert animals. The animal life, there's like numerous insects, of course. There's a lot of insects in the desert. Birds, rodents, reptiles, and arthropods. So if you look at these, you look down here, you'll see the tortoises. Here's a tortoise. The diamond-backed rattlesnakes are in the desert. Coyotes, we have a coyote over here. Hawks, road runners, kangaroo rats. This is a kangaroo rat. And a scorpion. Here's a scorpion here. And these are all desert animals. And of course up here, look at this lizard. Ugh. Tropical rainforests. So tropical rainforests are found near the equator in America, Africa, and Asia. And they're hot and humid regions that have like abundant rain and year-round growing season. So all year round, they're growing more plants. Biodiversity is at its maximum because more than half of the world's species of plants and animals are found here. So can you imagine, more than half of all the species on the earth are found in the tropical rainforests. A lot of life, especially plant life. Life in the rainforests astounding and beautiful variety of plants and animals. Look at this picture here, amazing. And they have a lot of evergreen broadleaf trees and dense canopies that block the sun from the forest floor. And vines can climb up to 200 feet to reach the sunlight. In the shadows, you'll see orchids, ferns, shrubs, all kinds of plants that are thriving in the shadows of the rainforests. Animal life in the rainforest. Of course, we have elephants, tapirs, gorillas, and other large mammals that feed on the leaves close to the floor. We also have jaguars in South America and clouded leopards in Southeast Asia, which are predators. There's tons of colorful birds of great beauty that fill the forest, including toucans, quetzals, macaws, and the birds of paradise. So pictures here of all the animal life in the rainforest. Many of these are arboreal. What does arboreal mean? It means living in trees. So what kind of things live in trees? Well, leopards live in trees, and jaguars live in trees, and monkeys live in trees. Lizards and snakes live in trees. So a lot of these animals learn to live in the midst and in the trees. So let's stop there. I'm going to go into the aquatic biomes, and then we'll be done with this section.